I would like to introduce to you today our master teacher for this year's middle school honor band. Her name is Taylor Nails, and she's the band director at Fayette Middle School in Fayette, Alabama. Hi, Taylor. How are you doing?
Hey Adam, I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. Just it's Friday, so very excited about that.
Yes, me too.
Now, you and I have known each other for quite a long time. We go way, way back. Um, you were supposed to be our guest clinician this year for our in-person middle school honor band, and I was so looking forward to that. But I'm glad we're able to kind of chat today for this virtual edition of middle school honor band. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I'm glad I could do it and help you out.
Well, our goal is to be back in person as wonderful as we can be next year, and we're excited to have you back for that. So, for those of us watching at home, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Taylor Nails. I grew up in Auburn, Alabama, which, if you've heard of Auburn University, is exactly where I grew up. It's over on the east border of Alabama and Georgia. And that's where I grew up. And then I went to college for music education for my undergrad and my master's at Auburn University. And I've just been teaching middle school band ever since.
Awesome, very cool. And I know your husband; he and I went to school together actually at the University of Alabama. So, yeah, it's been great, kind of watching you and being a friend of yours as we grow. You are an incredible flute player. We played together at the Alabama Winds a long time ago. And do you still play with Alabama Winds?
I do. We're kind of, I guess, on sabbatical, I guess, as you would
Right.
call it, this season because of the coronavirus, but we're hoping to start back up in January.
Awesome. Yeah, that was such a good time. How did you get to play the flute? Like what happened? Like what was your decision to make in playing the flute?
Okay, so playing the flute. We started band in Auburn in seventh grade,
Okay.
not sixth grade like most people. So my middle school band director, her name was Carla Gallahan. They came and did the whole recruiting concert and then came and tried every kid out for the band. And she said, I want y'all to pick your top three choices of instruments. So I was like, all right, I am going to play the trumpet.
Okay.
That was my top choice. And then I didn't have anything after that. I was set on the trumpet. So I was like, okay, well, I have to pick three. I'll put flute and then like clarinet or something. So I went to play the trumpet and she was like, can you hold this high pitch out? Which I'm just guessing was like second line G or something. And I was playing like tuba tones on the trumpet mouthpiece. And she was like, let's go to your second choice. Let's go to flute. And I was heartbroken. But she put me on flute and I just got that steady tone out. And it really, really was just kind of up to her saying that this is what you're going to be better at. And so I trusted her and I said, okay.
Wonderful. Awesome.
I know nothing
So,
too exciting.
well, that's kind of the way that it happens, and I think
I
it's
think so.
important for people to understand that, it's not always about what your first choice is. It's about what you're going to be most successful at.
Absolutely. That's what I try to remind kids when they're doing their instrument testing for me is let's go with what you're going to be successful with, not what you're going to struggle with, because then band's not going to be fun at all.
Right. Exactly. So, what led you to become a band director?
I really think it has a lot to do with that lady, Carla Gallahan, that started me on my instrument. I had
Cool.
always kind of seen band growing up. My parents were in the band and just always kind of watched all my friends be in the band as we grew up. And I saw all these men that
Mm-hmm.
were band directors. And then Carla Gallahan popped up when I was in middle school, and she was always very professional and just a very good mentor for kids and got you excited about playing your instrument and always had good bands.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of wanted to be like her.
Oh, that's great. That's the way same thing with me. I had an incredible high school band director that was just so outgoing and influential in my life, and it was one of those things that just really led me to that. Now, it might be a little early for middle school students to be thinking about what they want to do with the rest of their lives, but if there is someone out there that's kind of interested in music or a career in music, what advice would you give to someone thinking about that?
Um, I've thought about this for a minute, and I think some of the best advice I could give someone would be to go and observe people or find a program that you can be a part of and help out in some way. Um, because you kind of go through and think, I might want to be a band director. I want to get up in front of a group one day and teach these kids to play instruments or teach them how to make music. And so little of our job is actually standing on the podium and teaching music, especially in a
That's
public
true.
school system.
That's true.
There's so much that goes on behind the scenes just to get to that point of making the music. I think that would be very beneficial for people to see everything else that we have to do too.
Absolutely. So much of music, I think, is observing and listening. You know, going and if you're a clarinet player, going and listening to that really great clarinet player to kind of emulate their sound. Going and watching master teachers so you can emulate that kind of approach to teaching.
Right. And those are important things for you to see, like, especially with middle school kids, you go in and see, what is this person doing right? What are they doing wrong? How can I fix this? And if you don't have somebody that you can watch do that, it's very hard to just jump into it as your first job.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about music. One of the things that I love about honor bands and being involved with these kind of events is that you're constantly exposed to new music. And anytime I go out and I'm conducting an honor band, I want to make sure that I find new music or things that maybe the students haven't played before. So with honor band, how do you, or just your own students at home, how do you go about selecting music? What do you look for in creating a good experience for your students and your audience?
It's a little different going from my classroom to an honor band, because going
Sure.
into my classroom, I know how my kids play. I know what they're going to struggle with or excel with. And you go into an honor band, and it's an honor band, and it's some of the top players, but you still don't know what ability level
Hmm.
everyone's at. So either way, I spend a lot of time. My kids are upstairs banging on the ceiling. Sorry, you probably hear crashes. It's them playing in the bonus room. Um, what was I saying? Go in and listen online to different groups. Go to the Pepper website and listen to what there is or anywhere, and just try to find stuff that I find appealing, things that I
Hmm.
think students would find appealing. And then on top of that, you need to find things that the audience is going to enjoy listening to.
Sure.
And then I try to, for an honor band, find things that incorporate like a melody or some fun little rhythmic thing going on for each section, so that every section has something fun to play. Um,
What's your band playing right now? Like what pieces are your band playing right now?
Off guard. Let me think. We're playing A Christmas Trilogy by Elliot Del Borgo,
Okay.
and we're just kind of we're trying to get through to our Christmas concert and in on December 14th. Um, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, a little jazzy arrangement of that.
Cool.
A John Edmondson arrangement of, is it Frosty the Snowman? I think he did Frosty the Snowman that we're
Hmm.
doing, and then we're doing Dance of the Reed Flutes.
Oh, fun.
Mm-hmm.
Fun.
Got a
Now,
good
what
section this year.
very cool.
Mm-hmm.
What piece of advice, so you pass out a new piece of music to your students that you have or at an honor band, what piece of advice would you give to students as they approach that for the very first time?
Okay. I think sight reading is one of those things that you just have to keep working on as you get older. I was terrible at it in middle school, and probably up through about my junior year of high school, just terrible at sight reading. Um, and just the more pieces of music that you can put in front of yourself, whether it's from a method book or whatever, is better. But going in and sight reading, obviously, first thing, look at your key signature, look at your time signature. Are there any accidentals? Do you see any spots where you think you're the melody so that you can bring that out? Are there any spots where you have long notes like whole notes or tied notes? That's probably not the melody. Let me not be loud right here. And then look at things like rhythms. I always would sit there and start counting in my head the rhythm that was coming up and see if there's anything tough or tricky. And if it's tricky, just kind of keep repetitively going over it before I sit down and play it.
So one of the things that I've noticed is that sometimes rhythm is one of the hardest things to learn. You know, it's we look at it and it kind of just looks confusing or it's hard to read. What are some strategies that you might give to students to learn about rhythm or how to count and that sort of a thing?
Um, I think, well, one thing that we do in my band classroom is every day we warm up with a rhythm sheet, and it's just got these lines of um, different rhythms in every measure. When we put that to a scale, and a lot of the music we play in class goes back to that rhythm sheet, and I can say, hey, remember line 7 from this
Sure.
morning? That's the exact same rhythm, just on different notes. And I mean, throw those down in front of yourself too, and keep practicing those. I teach my kids to write in the correct counting. We learn to actually count it like 1, 2, and 3, and
Mm-hmm.
write the countings in. And then just as a flute player, if I've got some really tricky rhythms, because y'all know what flute music looks like everywhere, I just draw straight lines where every downbeat is supposed to be, so that I can
That's a great
see
idea.
where I'm supposed to hit which big parts.
That's a great idea. I always, when I was teaching beginning band, we used to, it was count, say, play. We would always count it out, and then we would say or we would clap it,
Hmm.
and then we would play it. And so we kind of built up from there, starting at just the most basic of writing in the counts to now actually being able to play it.
Exactly. We do a lot of clapping too and counting, and then on top of that, we'll sizzle the rhythm
Mm-hmm.
and that with the fingers going at the same time.
Yeah, because sometimes when you take the fingers away and you're just thinking about the rhythm, it's easier to grasp that. And then when you go to add the fingers in, it's a completely
Hmm.
different approach because you already have one half of it down.
Right. But you've got the hard part down now. You just got to get the mechanical working.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things you mentioned sight reading and how important sight reading was. One of the things I did during the pandemic was I would go on YouTube and
Hmm.
they have all of these videos with music and a backing track. And so like I have this. This was one of my pandemic last minute purchases. Is this Roland electronic wind instrument? And I would go on and like play along with this YouTube chart, and it had the backing track, and I was just playing along with it, and it allowed me to sight read and try some new things and play some songs that I just really wanted to play and enjoy, and I thought that was really cool.
The Vic Firth percussion website, they have sight reading rhythms too, where like the screen just keeps, it's like a continuous scroll of rhythms. You've got to search for it. I can't remember. I'd have to look at the screen.
Sure.
It's a really good sight reading
Oh, awesome.
rhythms too.
Now, I've noticed a lot of times some the students will try something and not really be great at it right away and then kind of get down on themselves or start to give up or say like I can't do this. What do you say to students who say that?
Those are my I canters. One of my favorite ones. We've given her the nickname in class. She's Negative Nancy, so now we just call her Nancy all the time. She doesn't mind. She thinks it's funny. Um, I tell them, just because you think you're not good at something the first time, or you think you're making a bad sound, I say, you're not good at this, but how do I say it? What do I say? You can't do this yet. I always try to add the yet onto the end.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can't sit down and play this piece of music the first time. I can't do that. You can't do that. Everybody's got to practice so that you can get better. You have to stick with it and persevere, and kind of realize that anything that comes to you easily is not really worth doing it in the long run. Um,
Right.
and like we talk about a quote by Henry Ford that says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So if you go into it thinking I can't do this, you're right, because you've already got that attitude of I can't.
Right.
Um, and then I think that even too continues with the mindset of going from middle school into high school. I can't because this is going to be too hard when I get to high
Sure.
school. And I mean, you just got to try it. There's so many rewards that you get from continuing with your music. Many friends, many memories, mentors, and then just like even with getting the music right, there's such a sense of accomplishment. Like with my students, when they say, I can't do this, like we're working on Dance of the Reed Flutes right now, and it's got this flute part that's got lots of notes in it. And the first thing they said was, I can't play this. No, not yet. But now that we've been working on it a couple of weeks, they've all got it down. And I was like, do y'all remember when this was hard for you and you said you couldn't? And they were like, yeah, it feels really good now that we could beat the music. And I tell them that all the time. I'm like, don't let notes on the page beat you up. Beat
Right.
the notes up and play it. So
Right. Right. They're just notes on a page.
mhm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I think sometimes we live in such a society where we want that immediate gratification, and we want to be able to beat that video game right away, or
Absolutely.
get to that next level on Candy Crush or whatever, and so, or what is it, Among Us now,
Oh
like
yeah.
we want to beat that, and um, sometimes some of the things that are worth learning take a little bit of time.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So, what are some of the things that you say to students? Because we're talking about notes on the page and logistics and counting and all of that stuff. What are some things that you tell your students to reach beyond that? To get to the emotional side of it.
Um, well, it really does have to start with the notes on the page. Once you get the hard part down, you have to kind of put yourself in the story of the music. Every piece of music tells a story. And if that means I've got to sit and read the program notes and talk to y'all about what this piece was written about, maybe let's research what's going on. The Nutcracker that we're doing right now. The Dance of the Reed Flutes, if you go and watch the ballet suite, it's really about pieces of marzipan candy dancing around. But that gives some kind of association from those notes on the page to what the kids can visualize. And so
Hmm.
we talk about what music is about. And if there's really no story to it, we talk about the mood of the music. And I'll say, why don't you picture the color navy blue or midnight blue? What does this piece sound like? What does navy blue sound like? And you can just hear little subtle differences in the way that they're making the shape of the music, the tone of the music, because they now have this picture of a color in their head.
Hmm.
And then you pick a bright color, hot pink. This piece is hot pink. That's a totally different feel than
Yeah.
midnight blue. So, and then read around the page. There's clear directions on the page. It's an open book test every time you read your music. There's the crescendos, there's the decrescendos, there's the accents, there's the rooftops, staccatos. Read
Yeah,
around.
it's one of those things. We get to our final test, which is the performance, and we can have the notes in front of us the entire time.
Absolutely.
The book is always open, and that's important to do. And one of the things that I think about a lot too is to mark those things in your part. Sometimes if we do talk about a new color, like this is purple, I would write purple in my
Mm-hmm.
part, and that would help me remember when I got there, oh, okay, there's a different feel.
Absolutely. I tell my kids all the time, write anything in your music as long as it's school appropriate, and whatever helps you remember this. It's your notebook to have open. Nobody else knows what it means. You know what it means, and it's there for your test. It's like cheating, but it's appropriate cheating. So do
Right.
it. I like,
Well,
even when I get my kids music and they turn it back into me, we talk about the colors, and I'll see they've taken their markers and put like green up there on their music. I love it.
yeah. It's funny because we're working on a piece here with the Wind Symphony we're performing next week, and one of our faculty members is playing with us. Our violin professor is playing with us, and she's phenomenal. I mean, just so smart. She's got perfect pitch. She can play anything in the world. And every time we stop, she picks her pencil up and makes a note of something. And this is one of the best violin players I've ever heard. Every time we stop, she is writing in her part, making a note about intonation, making a note about crescendo, or this, we're going to clip this short. And it's really refreshing to see that even when you reach that level of professionalism, they're still doing those same things.
Oh yeah, there's no shame in making those markings in there. It's to help you, so
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. So we've been going back and forth here in this area of being in person, being virtual, being hybrid. And I hear you guys are going virtual next year, going away from in person. What are some things that you're doing with your students or telling your students now to kind of prepare them for that?
We are going virtual next week. I call it more of homeschooling because the students aren't allowed to turn things in online, but that's okay.
That's kind of the
Uh,
way it is here in
yeah.
places.
Um, for the kids that do have the internet, I've given them some YouTube links to different performances. Like I said, we're working on the Nutcracker, so they have one assignment to go and watch the clip of the Nutcracker doing the Dance of the Reed Flutes.
Hmm.
Research the Nutcracker. What's the whole story about? How does this connect to your music? Kind of thing. And in the past, for my kids who've been all virtual the whole time, they have little short playing assignments that they have to do, and they video themselves or record themselves and turn it in. And this next coming up week, I just gave students specific things to work on in their music. And when we hopefully come back on November 30th, they'll all be able to play it for me.
Sure. And I think that's the biggest thing is that even if things go virtual or you can't be in school for a while, keep your horn on your face or keep those drumsticks in your hands and keep working on something. You don't want to let a week or two or more go by without touching your instrument.
Absolutely. You get so behind by not practicing your craft at all.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so my last thing is a kind of a quick lightning round of questions. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, so what is your bucket list favorite place you want to travel to right now?
Spain.
Spain. Oh, love Spain. What are you listening to on the radio right now?
Hmm. I listen to sports talk radio on the way home.
Sports. Well, you live in Alabama with all the football.
I do. I do. And then, I've listened to music all day. My brain needs a little bit of a break.
I do the same thing. I
If
do the
it's
same
music,
thing.
though, it's probably 80s or 90s music.
All right. All right. That's good stuff. Name three of your favorite composers.
Okay. I have to think about this one a lot because I've got composers that are not band and I have band composers. My
Sure.
absolute favorite composer ever is, I know it sounds silly, Maurice Ravel.
Yeah.
If you go and listen to the Chicago Symphony play his stuff, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's pulling the stuff out from around the page and off the page and all kinds of colors. I just love it. My three band people, Julie Giroux,
Love her.
love her, Alfred Reed,
Hmm.
and the other Reed, H. Owen Reed.
Oh, yeah. Good ones.
Yeah.
Good ones and some older ones. I like that.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite middle school band piece? This is a tough one, I bet.
No.
No?
Um, no, it's a kind of older one. Well, I guess it's if you consider me old, it's old. Two British folk songs by Elliot Del Borgo.
Okay, that's a good one.
It's a good
That's
one.
a good one. And I would suggest all of the people watching, if you're watching this, you're on YouTube, go look at all of these, go listen to the Chicago Symphony play some Ravel and go listen to some H. Owen Reed and Alfred Reed and Julie Giroux, who is one of my absolute favorites of all time as well. And just kind of listen to some new stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, Taylor, thank you so much for joining us for this. I wish that we were in person doing this in a couple weeks,
We'll
but
do it next year.
we will do it next year. And I appreciate you taking some time to work with us and talk to our students.
Absolutely.
Bye.
All right, bye.